get into the second soul over here. And because we're saying that there's two people inside you. There's really many people inside, but we generally comes to these two people. There's a natural person, and there's a supernatural person. Okay, and there's something very novel going on over here. Generally, in Jewish literature, until this time of the printing of this book, the soul was on the divine soul, the Tselem Elokim, the image of God inside you, was understood to be the rational soul. The person has reason. So human beings are created with in the image of God. Means we have reason, and we live our lives according to what we think is right to do. We decide, we're deliberate in our actions and tells we're agents of our own life. And that's what makes us divine. So then it would come out that a person who is very self-aware and very intelligent and educated and so on must have a great soul. And somebody who's not so self-aware, not so intelligent, just goes about life, oh, they must have not much of a soul. Not much of a divine soul, if any. That's generally the way it was thought. Here we discover, no, a divine soul is something completely different, nothing to do with intelligence. Something completely different. And it's something that a person who is a very simple person may have a greater soul, divine soul, than a person who's very intelligent. Nothing to do with these things. So that we're flattening the playing field in a certain way. And this takes us on to another issue of, well, how, if that's so, if this soul is divine, how can there be higher souls and lower souls to begin with if it's divine? Divine is divine, that's it. So we get to all that. But first, we start off with this line, very much quoted line, that the second soul in a Jew is a part of God from beyond, mamish, in actual fact. You know how long, this line went back and forth and back and forth. How are we going to say it? What are we going to put? I put originally, it's a sample of God. And all sorts of other words. What are we going to say? A share. I remember, there's a line, Kol Yisrael Yeshem Chelek. Every Jew has a chelek. This is the same word as here, chelek. We try to translate it as this part. Every Jew has a part of the world to come. Okay, so there was a big Lag BaOmer parade happening in front of 770, and the Bachum decided to put banners across 770. One of the banners said this: every Jew has a part of the world to come. So the Rebbe was outside, and looked up, shook his head, and then sent a note, let the Bachum know that the translation's incorrect. It should say a share of the world to come. What's the difference between a part and a share? What's the difference between a part of the world to come or a share of the world to come? Let me ask you this way. What's the difference between having, I'm leaning forward again, I'm sorry. You didn't poke me.
I failed.
Poke him. Tell your son to poke him. So what's the difference between having a part of Apple computers or a share in Apple computers?
A share is the future.
A share is a vested interest.
Okay, it's a vested interest. I have a part of something. Let's say I have a part of the company. I come in and say, I have a part of this company. Well, which part is it? It's the executive bathroom. I own the executive bathroom. That's the part that I have. Okay, you're welcome to the executive bathroom. Okay, if I have a share in the company, they say, well, which share? I have a share of every part of this company.
Right.
That's the difference. That's the difference. We had an old man in Vancouver at Shaare Zedek Synagogue, And he would show the people around who want to be a member. And a guy comes in and he shows them, well, want to be a member, you want to sit up here, it's going to be $5,000. Want to sit over here, it's only $1,000. And oh, sit back here. And so he says, well, is there something a little, maybe under $1,000? Man says, looks at him. He was not a pleasant person. He says, well, you want a seat for 100? He said, I'll show you a seat for 100. Then he takes him out to the men's washroom. Here you have a seat. I don't think that guy ever got membership. I don't know if he stayed Jewish. I don't know. Something like that. Don't treat your congregants that way. Okay. So we don't charge for seats in CBT, right? There's no charge for seats. Anyways.
You ended up using the word part.
I ended up using part. Okay. I want to put sample of God and so on part. Okay. Why? So I explained beneath.
Okay.
Part, it means not a particular part of God, which is absurd, because God doesn't have parts, but a particular iteration of a sample of him.
That's just as absurd.
Okay, meaning that this share of God could be expressed in many different ways. It could come out this way, it could come out that way, you could look at it many different ways. And each Jew expresses God in a different way. Maybe if you put them all together, maybe then each one is a different facet.
Rabbi, I do have a question on that. It may be jumping slightly ahead. This is someone that I fully agree with the interpretation of the divine mind. However, is there a biblical proof in the Tanakh? You know, the closest I can find is like Proverbs 8:22, where it says that wisdom was with God at the beginning.
Oh, you're getting to the wisdom thing. We didn't get to wisdom yet.
Is there a biblical text that shows that the divine mind is one with God?
Okay, we didn't get to the divine mind yet. You're jumping ahead. But you're asking on something that's coming up, and we'll get to that. The first
No, I have it.
the first step is this page. So this verse, a part of God from beyond, is a verse from Eov, the book of Job. It doesn't really mean that over there, but it's used in many classic Jewish texts to describe the soul. The only thing that's added on over here in Tanya is he uses the word mamish. He says part of God from beyond, but mamish, actually. What's actually mean? It doesn't mean actually a part. Because like we said, there's no parts. You can't have parts of God. Can't divide them up like a pie, right? Mm-hmm. He's completely one. So it doesn't mean, he said it's a particular facet of him. Okay. So what does it mean, mamish? So does it mean it's mamish God? It's actually, mamish doesn't really have a translation. It's a great Hebrew word. Mamash, you don't have it in English. It means like you can touch it. Tangibly. So does it mean it's actually really God? Mamish, or does it mean it's a part of God, but it's here, it's in a tangible way? The soul is tangible. Is it God that is actually God, or is it that the soul is tangible? So it's both. Is God made tangible? Tangible not in the sense that you can touch, but it's actually here in this world. So it's God's actual presence in this world. That's what this soul is. So I added on this line that this second soul, the point of this is to say that this second soul doesn't know God because it understands God.
Because it is.
Because it is. That's a big, big difference. You can understand something because you thought about it a lot, you observed it a lot, and you figured it out, and you know this. Or you can understand something because that's what you are.
Is that what
is the difference between the
passage? We say we go back to him.
To him.
So I have a question. But within this godly soul,
speak loud because Nasha wants to hear you.
Within this godly soul, there's obviously levels of soul within that.
Yeah.
But if
we put a chart over there. Well, there's a chart in here.
But if God is everything,
then
also is not God the animal soul as well?
Oh, okay.
because God is everything,
Yeah.
everything.
Why is it? It's a rock too. What's the difference between the soul
Correct.
and the rock?
So why do we specifically call out the higher soul as part of the divine
Yeah.
when everything, the table,
Everything should be considered divine.
because we all come from the same source.
Unfortunately for you, we don't get to that till chapter 6.
Oh, so we get to it. Okay.
So you have to hang in there.
I'll try.
The other one, but look, the other one, we already said it, it's self-centered. So I'll give you an example from energy. You know, we know two things about energy. Energy does work, and energy transmits information. That's energy. It's the basic definition that always works of energy is it does work. We don't know what it is. So it does work, but we also know that energy transmits information. The only way of transmitting information is through energy. You don't have any information about anything unless there's some energy either coming from it or reflecting off of it. Okay, so energy brings. Is it possible? Oh, so, Eric, I see you have your hand up. It's like stuck there in the air without any arm on it, but I'll get it in a minute. Okay, so is it possible you could mangle up, scramble, scatter the energy, the information in the energy, and the energy will still do work? Usually it's not a problem. I mean, it depends on the type of work you need the energy to do.
Could you give an example?
An example is that there's light coming from somewhere, and you need it to light up the room. Okay, this light is coming from the sun, so it has a lot of information from it. I could put it through a prism and look, you know, and see how much helium, how much hydrogen, what nickel, whatever is there from the spectrogram of the thing. Let's say I scrambled that up because it came through a window, and that scrambled up all that information, and it's coming to the room. It's still lighting up the room. That's what I needed it to do. So I scrambled the information, but still lighting up the room. Okay. So you have God's energy comes and creates something, two different things. One thing it creates, but the energy is all, the information in the energy is all scrambled. So this thing says, you ask this thing, where did you come from? I just is. Another thing, the energy comes there with all the information, and you ask, nothing is scrambled, and you ask, where did you come from? God is creating me. I'm not is. I'm not a thing that is. I'm just God is creating me. That's the difference between the divine and the not divine. In a nutshell, I just gave away stuff from Perik's chapter 6, but so by then you'll forget it, and I'll tell you again. So, yeah, but there are things that are divine and things that are not, even though everything is God's energy. Yes. Oh, so wait, I told Eric, sorry. Eric, go ahead.
So want to make sure that I'm on track with you. So before you were, or a couple of minutes ago, you were pointing out that everybody has a piece within of their divine to God. Would it be that we all have an experience of the eternal, and then going back even further to what you said, that people do righteous things and they don't know why? Is that the act of God within the divine in us?
Yeah, so on the first question,
being carried out.
right, on the first question, yes. Well, the point is that, like I said, we're not knowing God through observing or figuring things out and so on. We're knowing God because that's, in essence, who we are, as you know yourself. So that's difference between knowing something from externally and knowing something internally, which I hope to get into a little more. And the second question, you're saying, is that what I meant, that we don't know why you do things sometimes? Yeah, I think that's a divine experience. Those cases where you don't know why did I do that? When what's his name? the father of the Bibas kids, and they told him to they told him, you know, if you become a Muslim, we'll treat you better. And he said no. He doesn't know why he did that. He can't explain that. That's a divine soul. I remember many years ago, Daniel Pearl. I am a Jew. I was born a Jew. I'll die a Jew. He wouldn't be able to explain why he said that. That's something divine. It's not calculated. It's just like has to be this way. And that's something that stays with us our whole life. So now the difference between knowing something externally, I figured it out. Or I know because that's what I am. So when you know something externally, you know how it is in relationship to you. Right? I have a friend, I talk to my friend all the time. This is how he behaves with me, so on. But I don't know him. I know how this friend relates to me. I can have a lot of empathy. Human beings are capable of a lot of empathy. I can imagine what it's like to be him and imagine in my mind and sort of feel his feelings. I'm sort of simulate his self within me, and I'm simulating that. But I don't really know. And he surprises me very often. You know, you live for a person for 50 years and you still can't figure them out. Whereas if you know this person because you, for example, the way you might know a sibling or a parent or a child, right? You know this other person because you know how this person thinks, because you think the same way. So, for example, if I'm learning with a student or learning with my own child, it's a completely different experience. My child thinks like me. May not be as bright as the others, as the student, so on, but the student is listening to what I'm saying and figuring it out with his mind. My own child is listening to what I'm saying and understanding with my mind because he has the same mind as me.
Cut from the same cloth.
I remember as a child having conversations with my sister. And if somebody else was sitting there and listening to our conversation, they wouldn't have a clue of what we're talking about. Not a clue, because it's like one mind. We're both thinking with the same mind. We both understand words that nobody else would understand what we're talking about. The words were barely necessary. So this is the way the soul resonates. I like the word resonates. You know, resonate when you're a musician. You're sitting with a guitar, and the other guy's sitting with a guitar, and you play the E string, and you look on their guitar, and the E string is vibrating. It's just resonating with it. Like you hold a crystal glass, and you hit the right note, and the crystal glass is vibrating, resonating with it. So this neshama, this divine soul, resonates with God. They're entangled together as one. So when that type of oneness, that's a completely different concept than talking about an intellectual, a rational understanding of God. Okay.
Before we move on, I just want about here, like you were talking about the part and the meaning of part and explaining like
Mhm.
the cake and the company and the wine and
Yeah.
but I was envisioning this thing that I once heard, I don't know, not necessarily from Tanya, but just how like souls are like fire, right? Like there's a big fire and like if you have a fire, you take a candle, like it doesn't take away from the fire, there's another fire. So is it the same kind of part?
The way say when you light a fire and you light another fire from that fire, another fire from that fire, and so on.
It
And
doesn't take away, it
doesn't diminish anything from the
Yeah.
original
Yeah.
fire.
So is that the same kind of part that it's talking about here?
I would have to think about that. I have to think on that. I don't know. Now, right now, let's use what he's going to use, and then he's going to use 3 different metaphors for this. He's going to use the metaphor of exhaling, breath of a breath. going to use the metaphor of a child and a metaphor of a thought. And then he's going to get into wisdom. Okay, so let's look at those metaphors. The breath, the child, and the thought. So it says, when God created the first human being, Adam, which was Adam and Chava, the two as one person, says he exhaled into his nostrils the breath of life. Like that, right? And the same thing you say every morning. You say a blessing. Every Jewish person says, "My God, the soul that you have placed within me is pure. You have created, you have formed it. You have exhaled it into me. Nafachta, yipach, hapach." So the Zohar explains, what does it mean to exhale? It means, he said, it means you bring out your innermost. You know, I learned, when I learned Tai Chi, I remember he said, when you do this, you have to exhale, right? If you want to use your force, all of your force, whatever it's going to take force, you exhale at that point. Don't inhale. And it works with a lot of things. You have much more force when you're exhaling. And at the same time, have you ever been driving down the highway and you realize, I'm going to have to sneeze? You know, for that moment when you sneeze, you're going to have no control. You're going to lose control. So you have to take a good look around you, make sure your hands on the wheel, and sneeze, and then you can't lose control. So because all of you is involved in that sneeze.
True.
So it's not that God's sneezing into you, but there's a difference. How did God create the world? What did he use to creating the world? Spoke. Like we say, talk is cheap. Can talk and talk and talk. Right? There are people that do that. I've given birth to some. And so breathing, you can only do so much of. Exhaling, after a while, you can't do it anymore, right? So talk, you can talk, and it's not even anything that you mean. It's not your internal self. Not all of you is. You can be talking while you're doing something else. Very easy. You can talk while you're doing two other things. You can be thinking one thing and saying something else and doing something else and walking somewhere else all at the same time. But when you're exhaling like that, all of you is doing it. Your whole body goes, every limb in your body is involved in that. So that's the difference, that the rest of the world is great. This also answers your question about the difference between this one soul and the other soul. Why is this divided? This is God's innermost, as he's putting into it in that way. His innermost energy into this Adam, this human being. So you could say that this neshama, this divine soul, is God breathing within you. But it's more than breathing. It's his innermost. Okay, so it gives another idea of this innermost, which is, it says in the Medrash that said, Neshamas Yisrael ala b'machshava, they arose in thought. Again, the rest of the world was created through speech. What's the difference between thoughts and speech? What is our major use of language? Most of the time when we're using language, what are we using it for?
Thought, speech, action.
Well, which one? What do we use language for? Mostly. What? I don't think so, no. No, most of the time using language
Inner
is to
dialogue.
think.
Yeah.
To yourself. The person you talk to yourself far more than you speak to all the other people in the world combined. That's our major use of language. So in thought, but it's a very different type of language to yourself than the language you use to others. So the world is created with the language of speech, as you like, so to speak, God speaking to others. God says there should be light. God says there should be There should be a rakia, there should be a sky. God says there should be a sea, there should be this, there should be that. When he's speaking, that means that this thing is an other to him. It will feel that it's something other than him because it's created by speech, and speech is for someone that's other than you. So by implication, if you're talking to me, I must be other than you. So if God is creating this thing through speech, the thing is going to feel other than him. It's not really other than him. It's his own speech. It's his own energy. But it's going to feel other than him because it's come through speech. But thought is very different. When you look at your thoughts, you say, that's me. You identify with your thoughts. How do we become, I almost sat back. I'm really sorry. How do we know that we exist? How do we know how we are feeling? How do we know what's going on inside us? How do we know who we are? Because we're aware of our thoughts. Thoughts are like this rear view mirror we have inside. It's pointed at our own faces. We're always able to look at what's going on inside me. I need to know what's going inside me. Where do I refer to? My thoughts. I can't figure out what's going on inside me. I go for a walk, and eventually my thoughts tell me what's going on inside me. Now I can deal with it. So there are people who are more aware of their thoughts, less aware of their thoughts, and so on. Some people are acutely aware of their thoughts all the time. Some people claim that they don't have any thoughts. I knew, whatchamacallit, I had, during the pandemic, I had this Facebook group, and I did a survey. How many of you had, I think some 260 people there. How many of you are constantly aware of your thoughts? How many of you are sometimes aware of your thoughts? How much are I think I said often, then sometimes, and then never. And there was this 5-6% didn't know what on earth I'm talking about. Aware of your thoughts. Like you think I hear voices in my mind or something, you think I'm insane. And other people say, I can't get it to stop. I can't get it to stop. Some people say, oh, sometimes. So I met a neuroscientist who was who led the he was director of the mindfulness lab at Google for 5 years, and he had just left. And he told me, yes, I met software engineers. It seems to be a big machla among software engineers that claim that they don't hear any thoughts in their mind. But and I got them to hear their thoughts. It's a very simple process, very simple. Tell them I want you to listen to your breathing. Okay, now count in 5, count out 5. Okay, and they're doing this quietly. It says now it's stop. Just let your breath just go. Okay, follow your breathing. Are you still counting it? Yeah. Where? In my mind. Oh, in my mind. In my mind. Oh, so I thought you said you don't hear it. Oh, I hear thought. So we're constantly hearing thoughts in our mind all the time, and most people are sometimes or often oblivious to it, but it's always there. Okay, those thoughts. What?
Software engineers in particular.
Yeah, I don't know what's with the software engineer, but he claimed that they became better engineers when they were able to hear their thoughts. To me, I just can't imagine that. I don't know what they're talking about, but
They must fall asleep easily.
no, but I meant it has nothing to do with intelligence. I've met people who are brilliant, intelligent people, and they totally deny that they hear any thoughts in their mind.
I mean, most software engineers are smart people.
Yeah, some of them, yeah. But yeah, I met professors also, and some professors are smart. Yeah. Yes.
The trouble with who created the world by speaking.
Yeah.
And then I heard that what he created was other.
Yeah. It's not other.
How
It
can-
feels
how
other.
can-
It feels itself to be other.
It may other to me, maybe.
No, in other words, if you ask the regular human being, are you one with God? No, I'm me, right? I don't feel I'm one with God. But all you are is God's energy. Well, that may be true, but that's not the way I feel. I feel I have my own energy. This is my life. I'm running it. I don't feel, I mean, you can contemplate this and meditate on it at great depth for many, many years, your entire lifetime, and you're still, the default feeling is, but it's my life, it's me. Okay, why? Because that's the way we were created. We were created through speech. And speech is something you speak to an other, someone. So by God speaking the world into existence means that he's creating it to be something that feels itself, perceives itself to be other than him, even though it's not. But it will perceive itself. It becomes its own little world. And each one of us feels, this is my life. I have this, I generate this energy for myself. Even though you're not. But we don't feel, the world doesn't feel like it's constantly getting energy from somewhere. It doesn't feel that way. But the divine soul does feel that way because it's a thought. Thoughts are different. My thoughts are, that's me. You look at your thoughts and you think, that's me. Well, it's not me, but it is me. How am I observing it if it's me? No, that's why they do the whole mindfulness exercise. You're observing your thoughts. Just sit back and observe your thoughts. And then observe yourself, observing yourself. So I told this meditation teacher, I said to her, you know, if I just lie down and sit down and start observing my thoughts, the thoughts start going wild. What should I do then? Oh, don't listen to those thoughts. But you just told me just to observe that. Yeah, but those thoughts not, well, make up your mind. I'm supposed to just observe the thoughts. And the best way is to choose which thoughts you want to think and which thoughts you don't want to think. This whole idea of emptying the mind is absolute nonsense. There's no such thing as emptying the mind. They made that up.
So, Rabbi?
Yeah.
So you said something last week that really stuck with me, something about evil and good, where evil was about being like selfish and good was about being selfless. So what if you do an action that has a good result, but like your thought was selfish? So like Nebuchadnezzar, like he did
He did a
that
good thing.
welfare thing, but he was selfish. Like, oh, this is going to keep me in power. I'm a selfish guy. I want to be powerful. I'm going to do an action that's good versus I have a pure thought. I want to give charity, but maybe I'm a weak individual and I got outvoted and then no one got charity. And the action that was a pure thought
Listen,
never
The
happened.
main thing is it's
Yeah.
better that you give charity for selfish motives than not give charity at all.
Right.
It's better that you learn Torah because you want people to respect you than not to learn
So
Torah.
isn't it better to be Maki about, I'm just saying theoretically.
It's better to be
to have a bad
Nebuchadnezzar
thought.
and give welfare
All right,
yeah, okay. So
but it's
And
like
it-
conflicting.
yeah, that's what I said. There's good and there's good. There's different ways of looking at good. What is the measure of good? The good we're trying to, the good we want in the world, people should do, could be nice to each other. I don't know what the motives, okay.
But it seems like,
That's all, that's what. But in Tanya, we're trying to ascend to a higher form of good. We want to awaken this divine soul. And once we get the divine soul into action, everything's going to work. And that's what we're placed here for. We're not placed here to be like the rest of the world. We have to ascend higher. So we're trying to reach to that point. Does that mean you should stop doing any good that you feel is selfish? No. It means that you should try to raise that up even higher. But you're not going to raise that up by, no, I'm not doing it the right way. You're going to raise it by awakening the soul. That's how you'll get there. But awaken it, yeah.
So you, a few minutes ago, said you can't still the mind.
You cannot still the mind, no.
So I was bringing up in Rabbi Solish's class, study.
He said you could still, okay, I take it back then. Then you can, yeah, it's absolutely true.
No.
If Rabbi Solis says you can, then.
No, the New Age movement, we can call it, the spiritual New Age movement, and so much of what they say is almost identical to Kabbalah. And what they would say, I mean, it's almost identical, it's remarkable. I mean, it probably take it, is when you meditate and you still your mind, that is when there is no resistance to the divine light flowing through.
This whole mindfulness thing, it's what you call a SOP for Westerners. There used to be, maybe there still are, in these countries, people who contemplated very, very deeply. And they had what to contemplate, with knowledge and so on. And they and through this, they were able to get in touch with certain spiritual forces that they wanted to channel and so on, and reach higher thing. And as India became westernized, they thought, oh, these Westerners, they're fascinated with this stuff. They're fascinated by the people sitting on their legs tied on the pretzel. They're fascinated by the people who can stand on their heads, and they're fascinated. Let's put the whole thing together and make it something that even a Westerner can do, which they didn't think was very much, you know. And that's what we ended up with today. The Westerners, they can't contemplate. We'll tell them to empty their minds, right? And since they like all the yoga stuff, we'll package that in together and we'll make up more positions that they can do also. And we'll make up all this stuff, okay? And that's all 20th century stuff that was packaged for Westerners. But it's not what they were actually doing in India before it.
But they
Or that
would
the Buddhists
say-
were doing
I know
it.
we're not here to talk about what they would say. But they would say that divine light is flowing constant. And what we've done is take on resistance by listening to things that aren't true and, you know, believing that there isn't divine light, for example. And by stilling the mind, you actually remove that resistance.
And I'll tell you why the New Age or spirituality and I had a friend who was a German. He had a TV show where he interviewed all the gurus and so on, and he told me that all the books on Tibetan Buddhism, he said, are either written by Jews or ghost written by Jews.
He said that.
Yeah. He said every guru in India, and he was the pro, he interviewed all these guys. I need two things to be a successful guru. You need obedient German disciples and good Jewish marketing. I remember a professor who taught Asian studies and all this. I said to him, it was in England, I'm trying to remember where, it was many years ago. I said to him, you know, the Buddhism in America seems more Jewish than Buddhist because they talk about the purpose of life and so on. That's not Buddhist, and all sorts of other things. And he says, yeah, it's because it's sort of like Chinese food in America. It's all invented in America. So that's what it is. So it's a combination of Jewish Hasidic spirit together with the New England transcendentalists, imposing all of that on Hermann Hesse's Buddhism, form of Buddhism, and Krishnamurti and all that stuff. And this is what came up with. That's what we serve.
Right.
But the idea of emptying the mind, stilling the mind altogether, that's not how the mind works. It's possible to get into a state of contemplation that is so deep that you cannot hear. Why? Because there's so much light there that you can't hear the words. It's just the idea. It's just, that's a very, very deep state of contemplation. But and the mindfulness meditation may be very important for some people, just to calm down and get still, but it's not an end in itself. It's a preparation for contemplation. And the contemplation is also a preparation for life, bringing this into real life. I remember another guy in Vancouver, and he sat in a cave for years, meditating. He had he went to his gurus first, and then he sat in the cave and he meditated for years. And then after years, I don't know what he was eating, but he decided in his contemplation that there was gold in this cave. So he went to the Vancouver Stock Exchange and sold shares and raked in all sorts of money from, he got German investors, Swiss investors, and so on, and then walked off with all the money. So definitely didn't make him a better person or any of those things. But I don't think that's what the original gurus were even preaching to begin with. Eric's got his hand up again. Yes, Eric.
So this may be a question for future classes on Tanya. Does Tanya prepare us to understand if thoughts are of the divine as opposed to our everyday physical thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that in Tanya.
Okay.
And it's a key in Tanya, well, in Judaism in general, to be aware of your thoughts and be a master over your thoughts. You cannot be a master over your life until you are a master over your thoughts. Not to the degree that I only think that which I want to think. That's for a tzaddik. But to the degree of that, when you see there's a thought that I don't want to think, I say, that's not a thought I want to think, so I'm not gonna let it in anymore. And then you say, well, what do I want to think? And you decide to think about the things you want to think about, the things that will make you a healthy person, and not the things that will make you an unhealthy person. That's key. I don't see how any person can change in any way until they start doing that.
I would think that if you experience a divine action that you have to do in any human being, let's take the Holocaust for just as an example. If you take those who are of the righteous, the act of what they did, the various actions of what they did, and then a reflection on that years later by that person or those persons, I would think that perhaps that's when they would have an opportunity to to coalesce with thoughts of the divine.
I'm not sure what it means, but the main point of what thoughts you want to think is you want to think of thoughts that are thoughts of wisdom, Torah thoughts that will keep you happy, and not thoughts that will make you miserable. And the thoughts that you need to think about, but they might make you miserable, you tell them to please make an appointment with my secretary at the desk, and we'll turn up. And if you're really important, you will turn up on time for that appointment. If you don't turn up on time, then you weren't really important to begin with. So, and that's what it means to control your thoughts.
On the other hand, you have to recognize your thoughts before you control them, or it's impression. That's not
Okay, we'll get into that, but that's not until chapter 27 or so. So got a ways to go till we get there. What do you do with thoughts that you need, that where are they coming from? That thing, where are these thoughts coming from? Oh no. That's a whole bag. Well, you need a lot of preparation before you get that. Well, all I wanted to end this with was this idea that thoughts are like children. That's why we're called B'ni B'chor Yisrael. Banim Atem Lashem. We're called the children of God. When Moses goes to Pharaoh, God said, my child, my firstborn, Israel. And God also tells us, you are my children. So the soul, this divine soul, is God's child. And it's God's thought. And it's God exhaling. Which one is it? Well, the exhale and the child, I can't put together so easily, but the thought and the child. The thought is something you look at and you say, that's me. Well, wait, if it's me, then who is it that's looking at it? The one observing it must be me. So what's this thought? It's me, but it's not me. What's that like? That's like looking at your child, right? Why is it okay when somebody else's kid does something stupid, when your kid does something stupid, you can't handle it? Or the opposite way around, when somebody else's kid is making noise in shul, then it's a travesty. But your own kid, somebody points out, my kid wasn't making, I didn't hear a thing. I didn't hear a thing. Okay. Because like the first lesson you have to know when becoming a teacher is about when you have parent-teacher day, right? That the parents are coming in, they want to know what's the story with their little Johnny, right? So this is what I was told. That you say, oh, your little Johnny's a wonderful little angel. He's a good learner. He's really getting it. Or you say he's trying very hard, or he shows great promise or something like that. And I remember somebody asked the instructor, well, what if the kid's a rotten piece of meat that you really want to get out of this class and you can't stand him? Oh, he says, in that case, you say to the parents, your Johnny's a wonderful little boy and he shows a lot of promise. But what if you just can't say that? He says, well, then go find a computer and learn how to be a programmer or something. Don't teach. Because the last thing you want to say to any parent is your child stinks, right? The second worst thing you could say to the parent is you stink. The child is me. You're insulting me if you're insulting my child. You don't say that, okay? So that's that's like a thought. You look at the thought is me. It's not me because I'm observing, but it is me. The same thing with a child. It's me, but it's not me. It's exact. So that's what the neshama is. This divine soul. God looks and says, it's me. But it's not me, but it's in somebody, it's inside a person, but it's me there. So that's that part. Next week, God willing, and I'll have to pitch in a little too. We're going to get into this thing that you brought up about God's thoughts being one with him, God's wisdom being one with him. Nothing the sort of the neshama. Thank you for being here this week. Thank you everybody for coming. Hold on to these and bring them back again.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
L'chaim.
Thank you. L'chaim.
Red, did you finish off the red one?
No, it's closed.
When I bottle, the bottom, the red is gone now. Next week.
It's all gone.
Yes, yeah, next week I'll bring you 2 red.
Yeah.
You want the white? if
No, you
want
can
it.
keep.
You're welcome to.
I got wine at home, and
I don't drink wine.
there's like an apple for the teacher's side.
Exactly.
Why
I
did?
really like
We are on there.
teacher's pet was on. I don't drink wine.
Well, why did you bring it? Why did you?
Because we thought
And
people
me.
would drink wine. So I brought
Well, you
wine.
didn't open it. That's why they didn't drink it.
No one asked for it.
If you had opened it,
I went to the store
Rabbi,
and everyone
next,
said they wanted red.
this is.
I
next
just
You just
week,
pour the wine for everybody. You don't
Everybody
ask
was
them what they
asking.
want. You just pour them.
I said you
tell
wanted
tell
wine, you
Barry,
wanted
tell
red.
Barry,
Everyone said,
have Barry.
Rabbi, next week will
"Next week
be
I'll bring
after,
2 red."
Because
But if you want the white, you're welcome.
Mark needs to leave earlier.
Next week I'll bring 2 boxes of red.
next week will be after Tinus Esther.
All right,
Will there be a class?
Oh, I don't think we can have a class. It's Purim.
Yeah, Purim. It's Purim.
So we only have a class.
There's no class next
Okay,
week.
we'll have to miss next week. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Next class
I
is
just
2 weeks.
wanted to,
Two,
you know,
2 weeks from
remind
now.
everyone.
2 weeks from now. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Rabbi.
If I'd open the white,
Thank you.
open the white.
Good
Thank you.
Shabbos, regards from Ari.
I heard next
Because
week.
it's a holiday.
That's
A lot of noise over here now. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Well,
I'm gonna
regards
end
from
it.
Rabbi Ari. He called me right before the class.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Bye.
Thank you.